harvest from our urban farm that she just mentioned in downtown Greenville, a fourth an acre. Because I do this, I was asked to come and tell you how you can make Greenville a more sustainable place. So I feel I should admit to you that I don't think Greenville should have a goal of being sustainable. Sustainability is just surviving. It's exactly in the middle of the scale between degenerative acts and regenerative acts. A sustainable system is not getting any worse or better. As author Toby Hemingway put it, what if you ask someone, how's your marriage? It's sustainable. With that disclaimer, here goes. Since January 1st, 2014, I've been to 32 meetings, 38 parties, written 26 unique PowerPoint class lectures and taught the classes, started a permaculture landscaping business with my partner Sarah Harding, nurtured the new South Carolina Upstate Permaculture Society, which currently has 483 members, taught a month-long international garden video lecture course, taken a 72-hour certification class with one of the world's top permaculture experts, started hundreds of seedlings for my garden and actually planted some of them, wrote several articles for Edible Upcountry magazine, drove my daughter to more than 75 events, chaperoned 2 teenager youth group sleepovers, built half a dozen new garden beds, visited 3 funerals, took some vacations, went to 14 different medical appointments, hosted a permablitz for 60 people. It's like a garden barn raising where everybody shows up and gets fed a free meal and puts in a new permaculture system for that person, all in a day. I worked at Mushroom Mountain for the CFSA Upstate Farm Tour. I spoke at 3 conferences and attended some others. Cooked and cleaned, gave the Easter sermon for the Unitarian Fellowship, bought groceries, paid our taxes, fixed our vehicles, took the animals to the vet, unstopped the toilet a lot, discovered not to let my husband wild ferment pineapple booze in a pressurized glass bottle on top of the entertainment center, replaced some expensive sticky and dead electronics, exercised the dog. In June alone, we celebrated a fun 30th birthday party for my husband, dealt with our first raccoon attacks, which left one pet chicken dead and put another's eye out, hosted an urban farm open house last Saturday, and a week ago I had a miscarriage. It's my 3rd one since 2012. Additionally, here I am at TEDx. What I'm hoping for you to hear in this laundry list is that everybody has a busy roller coaster life. I'm sure you can think of comparable demands on your time, even if they aren't so heavily weighted in sustainability or hopefully regenerative beyond sustainable acts. So you're a lot more likely to be part of changing the world in a positive way if you've made even a minimal effort to include it somewhere in your work and play. Find some good influences so these things just start happening with minimal effort on your part. It's not an overnight thing. Be gentle on yourself and don't feel guilty about it. Have you ever been to a farm and seen how the livestock wears a path through the pasture directly to the water trough? How in the forest, the deer make trails to their favorite haunts? How about the zoo? The caged animals that pace back and forth, digging an ever deeper, desperate trench at the edge of freedom. We're animals. We forget that, but we do animal things. We build nests to protect ourselves, gather food. We create social hives called cities. This building we're sitting in right now is part of an ecosystem. We collect resources and distribute them among our colonies. We naturally take the most obvious path to do these things. It's how we're wired. When I hear people saying, I know it's better to grow all my own food, but I'm lazy and I go to the grocery store, I have to laugh. I mean, there's no such thing as self-reliance. It literally takes a village. You can go live in the wild somewhere, but you're taking the knowledge of 1 million years of humans with you, or at least 10,000 years of them. Plus, you probably are holding a hammer you didn't forge and some seeds you did not breed. We need each other. We also need to steadily shift our culture so that the obvious path to food, shelter, fun, and security is the healthiest path. It should be easy for you to get delicious organic local food. It should be possible for you to make or locally trade the supplies you need to live. You're not lazy, the world is broken. When I gave the Easter sermon for the Unitarian Fellowship, it also had an Earth Day theme since that occurred the same weekend. While talking about resurrection, I spoke about permaculture's potential to do that for the Earth. I'm going to assume that if you are the kind of person who attends a TEDx talk, where the focus is ideas worth spreading, that you're already familiar with the existence of climate change, peak oil, air pollution, water wars, food sovereignty, factory farming, eroding soil, melting polar ice, desertification, and the impossibilities of feeding our explosive population. If not, there are great TED Talks available online for any of those topics. So what is permaculture? A lot of people think it is a style of gardening. Among the New Age crowd, it can seem like a sort of religion. It's neither of those things. It's a design science like engineering or computer programming. Permaculture stands for permanent agriculture or permanent culture, which describes its ability to exist in perpetuity on the planet, symbiotic with other organisms. It takes linear systems where we use stuff up and trash it, and turns those systems into something self-regenerative and cyclical. Permaculturists recognize that over thousands of years, nature has already figured out ecosystems that work, and all we need to do is study and imitate them. Anyone can do it. Though not everyone needs to become a permaculture designer, most of us hire a trained architect to build our house, but we still know how to live in it. What we're talking about here is both mind-blowingly simple and devilishly complicated. Think about it like a Rubik's Cube, just a wad of unconnected blocks until you turn it the right way. Locking everything into place as a whole unit. Some scientists think that if you removed all the humans and their activities from the planet right now, the global ecosystem is already so damaged that it would still collapse. Humans are needed to fix the system. It is our ethical responsibility to reverse desertification and to shepherd climate change into a state of balance. What if we all had clean drinking water, ample food, shelter, good relationships with our neighbors? How many of our problems with war, civil rights, and an unbalanced economy would take care of themselves if people had this kind of security on a local level? If humans of NASA can use their big brains and opposable thumbs to go to the moon, permaculturists can click the blocks of nature's Rubik's Cube into place. We can fix our communities for ourselves and the generations that follow. To look at it from a more consumerist society perspective, it's just good business sense. We're not running our affairs very well if we produce ourselves right out of a place to live. Toyota's lean manufacturing would say that we need to examine the systems we are part of to eliminate waste while preserving value with less work. At this point, you may be thinking, I can't even get my aunt to take out her recycling. Sure, people are unlikely to change their behavior unless it benefits them to do so. I posit that when it is their water and food and land, they'll change. In the meantime, surround yourself with enough people who are also making an effort that you feel inspired to keep trying. A vital part of that is learning about things and then spreading that knowledge. Recently, a permaculturist named Jeff Lawton decided to see how fast permaculture can reverse a damaged system. In order to find one of the worst examples possible, he traveled to the Dead Sea area of Jordan, where the land is below sea level, a desert, and salted. The locals laughed at him. No one had grown crops in their fields for centuries. He designed a 10-acre permaculture system that relied only on their scarce desert rainwater and deep piles of composting plant matter to build soil. It was mostly comprised of water-collecting ditches called swales, and a variety of symbiotic plant species that prevented erosion, blocking drying winds, and producing food. Within 6 months, his fig trees were producing figs, and everyone got excited. Organisms in the soil responded to the decomposing plants and began producing beneficial compounds that locked up the salts. It made it inert, it made the ground fertile again. The locals freaked out when the first mushrooms appeared, since they hadn't had enough humidity for that to happen in living history. They had no idea what they were. All of a sudden, everyone wanted to know how they could reproduce his results. Nature has been proven to reverse damage quickly if humans exert their considerable ingenuity to assist it. We already have the knowledge to do it. Scientists have found mushrooms that eat toxic chemicals and clean up oil spills. Mature trees actually cause rain to fall. All we have to do is plant them. Forests create their own fertilizer and pest control, and we know how to mimic it in food production. Have you heard of the Great Green Wall in Africa? It's a project underway to plant a wall of forest along the entire southern edge of the Sahara Desert to block the expansion of desertification. Many countries and communities are involved at the local level. It's expected to reverse the trend and even make desert land arable again. Greenville doesn't have a desert pushing against its boundaries yet, so I'll give another example that might be a good model for us to follow. Have you heard of Todmorden, England? It's also known as Incredible Edible Todmorden, and you can look up a TED Talk by Pam Warhurst describing how the citizens sliced their government's red tape by guerrilla gardening food all over their city. The result was that the tourist economy is flourishing and their citizens have easy access to beautiful garden landscapes and local food. The easiest way to get started is to find people who are already involved. In Greenville, the South Carolina Upstate Permaculture Society holds monthly educational meetings, permablitzes, and guerrilla gardening projects. It's free and open to beginners, and with an active Facebook group and email newsletter. Gardening for Good is an organization created by Greenville Forward that networks local community gardens with the goal of transforming Greenville through gardening. Slow Food Upstate's motto is supporting good, clean, and fair food. If you're not a gardener, surely you eat. The single biggest impact you can make with personal change is getting more local food into your diet. Grab an Appalachian Sustainable Agriculture Program, which is also called ASAP Food Guide, and start patronizing the local farmers and markets and its pages. Pick something. The organizations I listed are a drop in the bucket. Pretty soon you'll find that you've worn healthier paths for yourselves and for your neighbors to walk on.